Freedom is the condition for the exercise of power. Michel Foucault. Before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it, and let's get started. The boy grew up in a small, damp apartment, where the walls absorbed the sounds of yelling and silence in equal measure. His world was limited to chipped mugs, old furniture, and faces that carried the weight of broken dreams. No one taught him how to dream. He didn't know what it meant to be wanted, to be heard, to be held with warmth. He learned early that being invisible was safer than being seen. He wasn't born lazy. He wasn't born angry. He was born curious, like every child, but curiosity doesn't survive in soil that's never watered. So he stopped asking questions, stopped looking up. His shoulders curled forward, not from weakness, but from the unconscious habit of avoiding the blows of disappointment. At school, they called him slow. He couldn't focus. His thoughts drifted. No one noticed that his nights were filled with shouting behind paper-thin walls, that he fell asleep hungry, that he woke up with the taste of fear in his mouth. They judged the fruit without ever looking at the roots. From the outside, it looked like a simple case, a boy who just didn't try hard enough. But the truth lived deeper. It lived in the air he breathed, in the expressions he mimicked, in the absence of calm voices, of encouragement, of space to unfold. His failure wasn't his own. It was borrowed, repeated, inherited. This boy didn't become a criminal. He didn't end up on the streets, but he also didn't become who he could have been. He worked odd jobs. He moved through life with his head down. He survived, but never really lived. Inside him, there was a version of himself that never got to speak, a version that never had the chance to become. People say, we are the sum of our choices, but that's not true. We are the sum of our conditions until we learn to see them, until we learn to break them. Every thought we have, every reaction, every expectation, they come from somewhere, from someone. You are not born with the belief that you are unworthy. Someone taught you that, not with words maybe, but with glances, tones, absences. You are not born with fear. It was placed in you, layer by layer. You didn't choose to stay small. You were told, sometimes silently, that it was safer that way. We grow into the shape that fits our environment. A plant in a small pot will twist its roots, adapt, survive, but it won't thrive. The shape of your mind, the weight of your heart, the strength of your spine, these are reflections. Of what? Of who surrounded you when you were too young to resist, too young to question. You don't speak with your voice. You speak with the voice your environment carved into you. That voice says, this is who you are. This is how far you can go. This is what you should want. And you believe it, because no one told you otherwise. But somewhere inside, a whisper remains. A whisper from the part of you that never agreed. The part that saw through the cracks. The part that still remembers the light. The first truth is this: you are not broken. You are shaped. And if you were shaped, you can be reshaped. But only if you're brave enough to see what shaped you in the first place. The most dangerous prison is not made of bars or walls. It's made of people who love you in their own broken ways and still keep you small. Not because they want to hurt you, but because they don't know another way. They don't know how to be free, so they teach you to be careful. They don't know how to rise, so they teach you to settle. They call it love. And maybe it is, but it's also a cage. You become the echo of their fears, their regrets, their limits. You call it personality, but it's inheritance, emotional, mental, behavioral. This is the truth that burns. Your life is not yours until you make it yours. Until you take each belief, each reaction, each voice in your head, and ask, where did this come from? Whose voice is this? Until then, you are not choosing your life. You are repeating it, and you're not alone. Most people walk through life asleep, carrying voices that are not theirs, fighting battles that were handed to them, playing roles that were scripted before they could speak. But once you see the script, you can rewrite it. Once you hear the voice, you can change the tone. Once you face the truth, you can begin. Because you are not the noise you grew up in. You are not the silence that followed. You are not the anger you absorbed or the shame you inherited. You are the space between. The question mark that never got asked. The breath that paused before saying yes to something that never felt right. And now you remember. You remember that you were always more than this. A baby doesn't know what love is. It only knows the feeling of arms that hold or drop it. It doesn't understand language, but it feels tone, rhythm, tension. The world begins not with words, but with vibrations. And those early vibrations become the blueprint of reality. From the first breath, the brain starts wiring itself to survive. It scans faces, deciphers moods, mirrors movements. Mirror neurons fire when a child watches others. That's how we learn. Not by instruction, but by imitation. The nervous system absorbs everything. How people speak, how they touch, how they leave. If a baby grows up around calm, it becomes calm. If it grows up around chaos, it becomes alert, nervous, hyper-aware. Not because it chooses to, but because it must. The body adapts before the mind can think, and those adaptations become identity. You don't remember learning shame. You don't remember the first time you held your breath to avoid making someone angry, but your body does. You carry that moment like a reflex. Years later, in a meeting, at dinner, on a date, the same silence, the same shrinking, and you think it's personality. It's not. It's memory. The way you talk to yourself now, that inner voice, is made from the voices you heard before you knew what to believe. Were they kind? Were they sharp? Were they absent? That voice becomes your guide, your judge, your mirror, and you follow it, even when it leads you nowhere. Environment doesn't just teach habits, it shapes perception. In a family where everyone struggles, struggle seems normal. In a group where no one speaks about dreams, dreaming seems childish. What surrounds you becomes what you see, and what you see becomes what you accept. Imagine two kids. One grows up hearing, "You can do anything." The other hears, "Don't aim too high." Same potential, same age, different soil. One takes risks, the other hesitates. One explores, the other calculates, and slowly, paths diverge. This isn't about motivation, it's about neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to mold itself based on experience. Every repeated thought, action, reaction, it digs a groove in your system. The deeper the groove, the more automatic it becomes. That's how identities are built, not from essence, but from repetition. People who succeed often come from environments that normalize success, not wealth, mindset. Environments that say, mistakes are part of it. Try again. Where feedback isn't an attack. Where ambition isn't mocked. Where effort is seen, not ignored. And people who fail often repeat the emotional patterns of failure. Environments where hope is dangerous. Where trying is risky. Where standing out is punished. You learn to stay small not because you want to, but because it feels safer. Your beliefs about money, love, friendship, power, none of them are neutral. They come from observation, from what your environment rewarded or punished. If you grew up hearing that rich people are greedy, you'll push money away. If you were told that love always hurts, you'll sabotage intimacy. You're not broken. You were trained. Even your reactions, quick to anger, slow to trust, fear of rejection, they're not flaws. They're echoes. Echoes of a house, a neighborhood, a group of faces that shaped you before you had a say. And the tragedy is this: most people never get far enough from their environment to realize it shaped them. They stay in the same town, same group, same routine, thinking that's just life. But it's not life. It's a loop, a story written by others, replayed until the end. To change, you don't need to become someone else. You need to see where you came from. Trace the path of every belief. Ask, is this mine, or did I inherit it? Because until you do, you'll keep repeating patterns that never belonged to you in the first place. From day one, you were absorbing, adapting, becoming, and now you're remembering, reclaiming, choosing. Success is not a mystery, it's a pattern. And the pattern always begins with people. The people you see every day, the way they think, the way they speak, the way they react to wins and losses. That becomes your weather. You don't control it, but you dress for it. You adapt. Imagine two young men, same age, same potential. One grows up around builders, people who take action, solve problems, speak with energy. The other grows up around complainers, people who blame, hesitate, expect the worst. 10 years later, one is running a company. The other is still trying to figure things out. Not because of talent, because of temperature. A cold environment freezes you. A warm one lets you move. There was a study where rats were placed in enriched environments. Toys, tunnels, stimulation. Others were placed in bare cages. The enriched rats became smarter, more curious. Their brains physically changed. Same with children. Kids in supportive homes develop stronger cognitive functions. Their brains light up. Kids in neglectful settings, the lights stay dim. Not because of DNA, because of daily input. It's the same with money. Wealth isn't just earned, it's learned. People who grow up hearing about investments, ownership, leverage, they speak the language of abundance. People who grow up hearing money is evil or we can't afford that, they learn scarcity. That belief doesn't leave even when the bank account changes. Some people sabotage every opportunity because deep down, they feel like they don't belong in that room. Because all the rooms they knew as kids were filled with stress, lack, fear. So when peace comes, they run. When success knocks, they hide. It's not self-destruction, it's self-loyalty. Loyalty to the pattern that raised them. You can see it in posture, in tone of voice, in timing. Successful environments teach timing. When to speak, when to wait, when to act. Failing environments teach hesitation, fear of being wrong, fear of judgment, fear of losing what little you have. Even spiritually, environment matters. Some grow up around silence, nature, reflection. They learn how to hear themselves. Others grow up with noise, screens, chaos, and they can't sit still without anxiety. They crave distraction because the inner world feels unfamiliar. The difference between a man who leads and a man who obeys is often who he stood next to in his early years. Was he surrounded by vision or by fear? Did people say, let's build, or let's survive? Did he see creativity in action or only damage control? A child who watches their parents argue about bills learns that life is tension. A child who sees collaboration learns that life is creation. The environment gives you tools or leaves you empty-handed. And yet, most people blame themselves for the results of their surroundings. They call themselves weak, lazy, unmotivated. But what if no one ever taught them how to move forward? What if they've only ever seen people stuck? Environment is contagious, not just emotionally, but biologically. Sit with anxious people. Your cortisol rises. Be around calm people. Your breath slows. It's chemistry. You don't escape it. You become it. That's why one weekend with driven people can change a life. 1 hour in a room full of vision can ignite something that years of self-help books never could. Not because of the information, but because of the vibration. Success and failure are not events. They're atmospheres. If you want to know your future, don't look at your goals. Look at your group. Look at their habits. Look at their evenings. Look at how they speak when no one's watching. That's what you're stepping into. That's what will wrap around you like a blanket, warm or suffocating. No one climbs alone, and no one falls alone either. It's always hands, lifting or pulling. So stop asking what's wrong with you. Start asking, who built me like this? Because once you see the hands, you can choose which ones you want to keep. Love can be soft. Love can be warm. But love can also be a leash. Most people never see it coming. They grow up believing that love is always good, always healing. But not all love frees you. Some love teaches you to shrink, to obey, to wait for permission. A mother tells her daughter, "Don't wear that, it's too much." She means well. She wants to protect. But the daughter hears, "Your body is dangerous," and the message sinks in. A father says, "That dream is unrealistic. Get a stable job." He thinks he's being wise, but the child hears, "You don't have what it takes," and another door closes inside. No shouting, no violence, just seeds, planted softly, and they grow into limits. People don't need to control you with force. They just need to convince you that shrinking is safety, that staying small is love, that giving up your voice is maturity. You see it in families where silence is called respect, where fear is called discipline, where guilt is used as currency, where the brightest light in the room is told to dim itself so no one else feels bad. And so the child learns to apologize for being too much, too loud, too smart, too alive. They clip their own wings to make others comfortable, and they call it loyalty. Love becomes the reason they stop growing. Later, they enter relationships where sacrifice is the norm, where emotional hunger is confused with passion, where absence is mistaken for mystery. They repeat the same patterns, waiting for someone to finally choose them, the way they were never fully chosen before. But the truth is simple. If love doesn't make you bigger, it's not love, it's attachment. If love doesn't let you breathe deeper, it's a bond made of fear. You are not supposed to feel guilty for becoming more. You are not meant to earn love by staying less. Environment isn't just a place, it's a feeling. And when your emotional environment has always been shaped by duty, shame, and fear, you start to mistake those things for care. You tell yourself they're doing their best. And maybe they are, but even well-intentioned people can break you if they've never healed themselves. You carry their pain like it's your responsibility. You become the therapist, the peacemaker, the quiet one. You learn to read the room before you speak. You adapt to everyone, except yourself. And the scariest part? You think it's love, because it's all you've ever known. But love that requires self-erasure is not love. It's erasure. There's a reason you feel a deep tiredness around certain people, a heaviness, a sense of walking on glass. It's because your nervous system remembers that here, in this environment, you can't be real. So you perform, you play the role, you smile with tired eyes, you nod when you want to scream. And no one notices, because you're so good at hiding. You were trained for it. But one day, the body says no. The heart starts to ache. The soul begins to whisper. And that whisper says, you are allowed to outgrow them. Not with hate, not with blame, but with truth. You don't need to fight. You don't need to convince. You only need to walk, slowly, quietly, away from what keeps you in circles. Because some people don't want your growth. They want your predictability. They want you to stay in the version they can understand, the version that doesn't threaten them. Your change makes them uncomfortable. Your vision reminds them of their stuckness. Your fire exposes their cold, so they call you selfish, ungrateful, arrogant. But the truth is, they are afraid, and they want you to be afraid too. But you're not anymore. You don't have to hate where you came from to leave it. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove anything. You only need clarity. Clarity that says, I don't want to live on repeat. I don't want to carry voices that limit me. I don't want to die with someone else's beliefs in my bones. Most people never escape their loop, not because they're weak, but because they never pause long enough to see it. They keep moving, talking, working, reacting, always reacting, never choosing. But once you stop, just for a moment, the script starts to unravel. You begin to see how many of your choices were made for you. Not directly, not with commands, but with presence, with repetition, with expectation. And you start to ask, without asking, what do I want? Who am I without these people around me? That's where it begins. Not with action, with seeing, with waking up. Because if you don't filter your environment will filter you. It will shape your beliefs. It will edit your dreams. It will tell you who you are allowed to be and who you are not. You become what you're surrounded by, not immediately, but inevitably. So here it is. 5 tools, 5 filters, 5 ways to take back your life. Tool 1, the mirror test. Look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Then ask, if I become exactly like them in 5 years, is that a win or a warning? No emotions, just honesty. Their habits, their mindset, their energy. That's your future, unless you change the room. Tool 2, the inner reaction. Notice how you feel after spending time with someone, not during, after. Do you feel drained or lit up? Small or expanded? Calm or restless? The body knows what the mind denies. Track the pattern, then decide who deserves access to your nervous system. Tool 3, curate with intention. Build your digital circle like your physical one. Podcasts, books, voices, these are people too. If no one around you thinks big, read people who do. If no one listens, find audio that does. Input becomes identity, so feed your future. Tool 4, permission to detach. You are allowed to walk away, even from family, even from childhood friends, even from good people who don't fit your direction. This is not betrayal. This is alignment. You don't owe anyone your decay. You are allowed to heal elsewhere. Tool 5, proximity to power. Spend time near those who live the way you want to live. Not just in results, in spirit, in integrity, in clarity. Even brief moments with the right person can create a shift. Energy is transferable, and belief is contagious. Because here's the truth: you don't become successful by force. You become successful by exposure. Repeated, consistent exposure to people and places that pull your potential forward, that demand your growth, that speak to your higher self, not your habits. The wrong environment makes you question your worth. The right one reminds you of it. You've spent enough time proving your value to people who couldn't see it, enough time apologizing for wanting more, enough time in rooms that shrink your spine. Now it's time to choose. Choose circles where vision is normal, where discipline is love, where dreams are not mocked, where peace is not boring, where growth is celebrated, not feared. Because the next version of you is waiting, but it can't breathe in your old environment. It needs new air, new voices, new mirrors. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to stop pretending that who you are was ever your choice. And then choose again. Louder this time. Clearer, freer. We're sure you've discovered plenty of value, so subscribe now and stay connected.